The first time I heard footsteps above my bedroom, I told myself it was an animal. The second time, I checked the attic. The third time, I set up a camera. What I recorded that night is the reason I no longer sleep with my bedroom door closed. And it's also the reason the police told me I should never go back to that house alone. I moved into the house in late October. It was a small, 2-story rental at the edge of a quiet neighborhood in Pennsylvania. The rent was suspiciously cheap, but the place looked clean. The landlord seemed normal, and I needed somewhere close to my new job. I lived alone. The house had 2 bedrooms upstairs, 1 bathroom, and a narrow hallway with a square attic hatch in the ceiling. The hatch didn't have a ladder attached to it. You had to bring one from the garage and push the panel upward. The landlord told me the attic was unfinished and mostly empty. For the first week, everything was fine. Then small things started happening. Food disappeared from my kitchen. Nothing obvious. A few slices of bread, half a jar of peanut butter, a bottle of water. At first, I assumed I was simply forgetting what I had eaten. I was working long shifts, sleeping badly, and still unpacking. Then I noticed the bathroom cabinet had been left open. I always closed it. I'm not saying that because I think I have perfect habits. I don't. But the cabinet door was directly beside the sink, and if it was open, it blocked part of the mirror. There was no reason I would leave it that way. One evening, I came home and found the upstairs hallway light turned on. I remembered switching it off before work. Still, none of that felt frightening. Annoying, maybe. Strange, definitely, but not frightening. The first thing that genuinely scared me happened about 2 weeks after I moved in. I woke up at 3:17 in the morning to a sound above my ceiling, a slow scraping noise. Then 3 heavy steps. 1, 2, 3. They stopped directly above my bed. I didn't move. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening. For nearly a minute, there was nothing. Then came another sound, a soft shift of weight, like someone kneeling down. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The footsteps stopped immediately. I called my landlord the next morning. He laughed and said it was probably a raccoon. I told him the footsteps sounded too heavy. He said old houses carried sound strangely and offered to bring traps. 2 days later, he came over with a ladder. We opened the attic hatch together. The attic smelled like dust and old wood. There was insulation between the beams, a few cardboard boxes, and some plastic sheeting near the far wall. No raccoon, no droppings, no nests. But there was something else, a path through the insulation. It looked compressed, as if something had been moving repeatedly from the attic hatch toward the space above my bedroom. The landlord stared at it for a moment. Then he shrugged. Probably from maintenance, he said. I asked when anyone had last been up there. He said he didn't know. That answer bothered me more than the footsteps. After that, I started paying closer attention. I took pictures of my kitchen before leaving for work. I marked the water level in bottles. I placed a strand of hair across the attic hatch. The next evening, the hair was gone. The hatch looked closed, but one corner was slightly lower than the others. I called the landlord again. This time, he sounded irritated. He told me nobody else had a key except him, and he had not entered the house. He suggested I might be under stress. That night, I pushed a heavy dresser beneath the attic hatch. I didn't hear anything. For 3 nights, the house was completely quiet. I started feeling stupid. Then, on the 4th morning, I found the dresser moved about 6 inches away from the wall. There were scratches on the wooden floor beneath it. I called the police. 2 officers came and searched the entire house. They checked every room, every closet, the basement, and the attic. They found nothing. One officer told me there were no clear signs of forced entry. The other asked whether I had any enemies. I said no. They told me to change the locks and install cameras. So I did. I bought 3 cheap security cameras. One faced the front door. One faced the kitchen. The third pointed down the upstairs hallway toward my bedroom and the attic hatch. The cameras sent motion alerts to my phone. For the next few days, Nothing happened. No missing food. No footsteps. No open cabinets. I almost convinced myself it was over. Then I received a motion alert while I was at work. It came from the kitchen camera. I opened the live feed. The kitchen was empty, but one of the cabinet doors was slowly swinging shut. I watched the recording again. The video began with the cabinet already open. There was no person in frame. No hand. No movement anywhere else. The door simply closed. I left work early. When I reached the house, the front door was locked. The windows were closed. Nothing looked disturbed. I searched every room while holding a kitchen knife. I didn't find anyone. Upstairs, the attic hatch was still blocked by the dresser. That should have made me feel better. Instead, I noticed the door to the guest bedroom was open. I never used that room. Inside, the closet door was also open. At the bottom of the closet, behind several boxes I had never unpacked, I found a rectangular piece of drywall that didn't match the rest of the wall. It had been cut and placed back loosely. I pulled it away. Behind it was a narrow opening. A person could fit through it. I shined my flashlight inside. The opening led into a dark space between the walls. There was insulation, wooden framing, and a narrow platform made from old boards. On the platform were 2 empty water bottles, a blanket, several food wrappers, and one of my missing kitchen knives. I ran outside and called the police. This time, they arrived with more officers. They searched the wall space and the attic. They found a hidden passage connecting the guest bedroom closet to the attic. They also found a sleeping area above my bedroom. There were flattened cardboard boxes arranged like a mattress, a flashlight, a small bag containing clothes, and dozens of photographs. Most of them were photographs of me, sleeping, eating in the kitchen, sitting at my desk, standing in the bathroom doorway. Some were taken from inside the house. Others were taken through the windows. One photograph showed me asleep in bed. It was close enough that whoever took it must have been standing beside me. The police told me to stay somewhere else while they investigated. I went to a hotel. The landlord claimed he had no idea who could have been inside the house. The previous tenant had moved out 6 months earlier. There were no records of anyone else living there. The police collected the photographs and searched for fingerprints. They also took my cameras. That night, while sitting in the hotel room, I realized something. The hallway camera had been recording continuously before the police removed it. I still had access to the cloud recordings through the app. I opened the footage from the previous night. 4 hours, nothing happened. Then, at 2:46 in the morning, my bedroom door slowly opened. I saw myself leave the room. I walked into the hallway wearing a grey t-shirt and sweatpants. I stood beneath the attic hatch for a few seconds. Then I went downstairs. That was impossible. I had been asleep. I remembered waking up that morning in bed. I watched the clip again. The person looked exactly like me from behind. Same height, same clothes, same hair. But the way he moved was wrong. Too slow. Too careful. He disappeared down the stairs. 3 minutes later, he returned. This time, he was facing the camera. It wasn't me. It was a man wearing my clothes. He had styled his hair like mine. He even wore a pair of glasses similar to mine. His face was thin and pale, and he had dark circles beneath his eyes. He stopped in the middle of the hallway and looked directly into the camera. Then he smiled. Not a wide smile, just a slight movement at the corner of his mouth, as if he knew I would eventually see the recording. He walked to my bedroom. He opened the door, and he went inside. The bedroom door remained closed for nearly 4 hours. At 6:38 in the morning, it opened again. The man stepped out wearing different clothes. He was carrying a backpack. He walked into the guest bedroom and disappeared inside the closet. 10 minutes later, I came out of my bedroom. I looked tired, confused, completely unaware that another person had been inside the room with me. I sent the footage to the detective. The police searched the wall space again but found no one. They never caught him. The fingerprints didn't match anyone in their database. The landlord was questioned but never charged. As far as I know, The man's identity remains unknown. I moved out immediately. 4 months, I barely slept. Every noise in the ceiling made me panic. Every open cabinet felt like a warning. But the worst part wasn't the photographs. It wasn't the hidden passage. It wasn't even the footage of him entering my bedroom. The worst part was something I noticed weeks later. I was watching the recording again, trying to understand how long he had been inside my room. I increased the brightness. Just before the man opened my bedroom door, he looked down at something in his hand. It was my phone. The same phone that had been charging on the nightstand beside my bed. That meant he had already been inside the room before the camera recorded him entering. And when I checked my phone's cloud accounts, I found dozens of deleted voice recordings. Most were only a few seconds long. Breathing, sheets moving, me talking in my sleep. But the final recording was almost 2 minutes long. At first, there was only silence. Then I heard my own sleeping breath. A man whispered close to the microphone. "I think he's starting to notice me." Another voice answered from somewhere farther away. I know. There had been 2 of them.